Robin, congratulations for Trespassers.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
So how does it feel that your short film is part of the bite-sized Halloween for Hulu?
I think my favorite part is that I get to tell my mom that a movie I made is on a thing that she's heard of. So that's a good feeling. As far as like what comes next, who knows? It's obviously a privilege to be a part of a class like this. It's definitely a privilege to have your work screened on a major streamer. I'm really grateful to the team over at 20th Digital for giving me the opportunity in the first place, and then giving me the support and trust and sort of production backbone to make this thing. And it continues to be a fun ride. So here we are.
And here we are. We're all talking about it. And it is a great short film to talk about too. So let me start with that, obligatory question everyone has to ask is, where did you get this idea for Trespassers from?
So it originated from Hulu, again, reaching out to me and asking like, hey, do you have ideas for Bite Size Halloween? And, truthfully, this time a year ago, I was on my couch watching Hulu, watching the Halloween shorts and going, I would really like to do one of these. I don't know how that happens, but I would really like to do this. And then I was very fortunate to get the call, just sort of out of the blue. And they said give us 3 to 5 pitches, and this was one idea of a handful of others. And it really came about through, well, first off, what are the little things that's kind of scare me, like creepy houses, home invasions, and being watched. One thing I'll mention is maybe 2 weeks before this came about, my car got broken into. It was a failed car theft, but it was a really violating feeling of having your private space sort of invaded and trespassed upon. And I sort of wanted, I think I wrote this out of wanting revenge against the people who broke into my car. And, it was like, well, what if you broke into a place where you're not wanted, and there's something secret hidden behind the walls, and it's gonna get you. It was what is good horror karma? And I think, it was these things sort of like out there, and then it all came together. And then the next question was, all right, how do we fit this into 5 minutes?
Wow. So in reality, it was initially a home invasion idea, and then it became your personal revenge story.
A little bit.
Okay, well, first of all, it is a creepy house that you actually put the production setting at. I know, short films is really on a budget. Tell us about this place that you actually find, because I can't imagine finding a place that actually has like a basement and a secret door.
So they didn't have the basement. The basement was actually shot outside, and we doubled it to be inside, like cover the top so like the sun's not coming in. But the house, so I believe the house is built in the late 1800s, and the owner, I think, bought it in 1987, and he's a carpenter by trade, and it's his project. He has been working on it for the last 30 years, and he's taken what was once like essentially a cottage on the hill and just blown it out into this really large and intricate, beautiful wooden home. We only shot in a fraction of the house because the house is much bigger than the actual space that you see in the film. But and we knew right away as soon as we walked in, or like, my jaw sort of was like, oh yeah, this is the one. But Dwayne, the homeowner who built this place, it is, as he says, he goes, the horror movies, they love to come up here. I've had so many people killed in my house, it's crazy. But he's very big into history, and he's very big into carpentry. And the house is sort of a antique collection. It's almost its own museum in a lot of ways. And on top of that, he's just a really generous, kind human being, and really for so many antiques and so many delicate things to be in the house, and for him to say, "Oh yeah, do whatever you want, move whatever you want, kill whoever you want, and have fun." It was it was a really could not have dreamed of a better location to shoot in for a short film.
So the so-called safe and the little cabinet things, that was around the house.
That was actually there. Yep. So there were certain items that were in the house that were never part of the original screenplay, but we were like, oh, well, let's just write this and let's make it work. There was always a scene where a character was like either drilling or sawing into a wall. So instead of the wall, it's like, all right, I'll break into the safe. That makes sense for why they're here. And then we'll do the reveal a different sort of way. What wasn't real is when he's drilling and you see there's like the eye that kind of comes through the wall. That's actually a doorway. And what we were able to find, so that was a doorway. And you know how I mentioned the crawl space is outside. So that area was actually full of all this extra wood, and we had to clear the wood before we could film in there. And we did that like weeks prior. But while we were doing that, we found these pieces of wood that matched the interior of the house in great condition. And so we were able to construct an extension of the wall next to the character so we could put the actor with their eye looking into the room. And so we did a whole bunch of like cheats and different effects practically to give the semblance that this is the location of the movie. But as soon as you take a step back, it's all made of cardboard.
That is a terrific trick. I know that you've done numerous short films before in the past. Are you always this creative, or just on this project?
I hope so. No, I think I think this is my third time working with the production designer, and I sort of joked with her. I was like, I mean, you know me, I like to get my hands dirty. I think this is maybe my third or fourth set that I've at some point. I don't build the sets necessarily like that. I really rely on the sort of brilliance and genius of other artists to help build the space, but I very often will come in and be the first person on the ground to clear out a space. So there's like a lot of, like in this case, there's a lot of wood on the set. I and a buddy cleared that out. I did another film that's a sci-fi based film, and the location is very kind to allow us access to the space. And there was all this, it was a storage unit essentially. So we cleared all the storage out, and then we started bringing stuff in. And I was like finding trash on the street, like leftover furniture that people had trashed on the street, picking that up and then bringing it over to the location. So I do think that, I think something that I'm very passionate about is, regardless of how much money the production is giving me, how do we maximize the picture to, if we get $20,000, let's make it look like $20 million. Mm-hmm. And I think there's always at least there's a real hunger for me to blow it all out.
Wow. I can't imagine what you could do with $20 million.
We're itching to find out.
Now let's talk about the monster itself. You didn't really identify in the short film, which is quite understandable because after all, it is a short film. But did you want to just to leave us guessing on what the creature is?
Oh, so the creature is her sister, and she's been behind the walls for years at this point. And I wanted to leave it open-ended as to what happens next. And if I think secretly I was hoping a Hulu executive go, oh, I really want to know what happens next. Let's greenlight the movie. No, I'm half joking. But it was I really like the idea of giving the audience enough information about the characters that, especially if the movie ends and we see our final two characters obliterate each other, it doesn't leave anything for the imagination. And especially with a short film, it's sort of, I felt it was sort of nice to sort of feel like, oh, well, this would happen next, and kind of drum up the excitement of what the characters would do next. And so that was an intentional, but also, trust in the audience to create the best version for themselves.
Absolutely. And I'm going to let you in on the secret. I'm only doing the interviews for short films on Bite Size Halloween that could potentially be a full-length feature film. So I chose yours. I was going, I could see Trespassers as a full-length feature film.
Oh, that's great. I appreciate that. Thank you. We definitely, and part of our development too was, because it's 5 minutes, what is the grounded reality for all of these characters beyond our 5 minutes? So even if it's not in the story itself, all the actors and myself, and as well as the production designer and cinematographer, all knew where people were coming from, where the backstories were, what people were doing minutes before they arrived at this house. There's a whole 20 minutes. I mean, and sometimes, we would talk and I just go, that's for the bigger version. That's for the bigger version. This is the bite-sized version. And so, and I think, especially when you have only 5 minutes to tell a story, you write so much more, so you know exactly what the most compelling 5 minutes are.
Absolutely. And the look of that sister, did it take long to come up with what she was going to look like for the reveal?
I think part of it, so I worked with an amazing young makeup artist named Hannah Koyak, who did, we had ideas and we were sort of testing them out, and we did a test prior to the shoot, so we had a vision of it, and it was really, we wanted a creature that was a human being at the end of the day, but someone who looked sort of ravaged from just bad living and neglect, and this sort of like seeing the other side, essentially. And because the budget was limited, you never know what you're, especially, you can dream all you want, you can make as many drawings as you want, but at the end of the day, you don't really know what you're going to get. And I just think that Hannah did a fantastic job. And then Isabel just brought this life to the creature that was just so, I take no credit for that. That is really the artistry of Isabel, embodying this creature and giving it this terrifying life that I think I could only dream of. And it was, and that's what I think is so special about film oftentimes is you want to open the door, you want to bring ideas that open the door for other people to bring their ideas, so you can end up with something that you never dreamed of. And that's really what I think was special about the creature.
Well said. Well, Robin, let me leave with one more thought. Can you talk about the cast that you actually brought into this project? And I want to remark, thank you for making some of your cast members Asian, because I was telling someone, like, we don't see a lot of Asians in horror cinema now these days.
That was, thank you for bringing that up. That was always a prerequisite. That was just I wanted to cast an Asian mother, and I wanted to cast a half Asian kid. Obviously the movie's it's not about race, and it's not about racial themes, but I just wanted the representation. And I think that's one of the reasons why I got into the film industry in the first place, was to see Asian faces play roles that are often reserved for historically Anglo-Saxon performers. Something that I am very passionate about is this idea of white neutrality, where if the character is not written as Asian or Hispanic or Black, they're just going to cast a white person. And I think for me, it was again, the story is the story itself is not one about race, but as far as my contribution to narrative filmmaking and storytelling, it's important just to see these faces up there. And I sort of joked with someone. I said, well, there's a world where this whole story is actually a nightmare of the young boy. And how did I say this? I said, this movie is a nightmare told from the perspective of the young boy who's Yannick, who's now an adult, and he's imagining what the worst case scenario nightmare would be, which is him and his mom in a lonely house in the middle of nowhere being attacked by both home invaders and a creature behind the wall. And then I said, and that young boy is me. and I was totally joking, but the idea was that these are the movies I wanted to see faces like this on screen when I was Yannick's age. And I think we're seeing a lot more, which is fantastic. There's more to go, but yeah, it was really important to have Asian American representation without the movie itself being an Asian American story. I have made that movie. I hope to make another one about with more Asian American stories, but no, for me, it was just about the visual representation.
Most excellent. Well said, Robin. And I'm crossing my fingers to that you'll get a full-length feature film soon. So
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this conversation. Hopefully we get to do this again.
I hope so.
Appreciate it. It's a lot of fun. Thank you.
All right. Bye again. Bye.